supertalktv.org. And if you head on over to supertalktv.com, you'll see our guest for Good Things Today, Miss Sharon Mcdougall. She is from Moss Point, Mississippi, and she is one bad mamma jamma for all the right reasons. Welcome back, Sharon.
Thank you for allowing me to come back to your wonderful studio.
Now, you have been busy. I was trying to remember the last time you joined us here on Good Things. Do you happen to remember the date? It was several years ago.
I think it was December of 2017.
Wow. Okay, so over 3 years ago. And that brought
it was right
you
when
here.
That article came out. Mm-hmm.
Right, the article that showed or made the connection of you with your work there at NASA. So let's give a little background. Give us a little background about the fact that you are an Air Force veteran. You joined NASA in 1990 and did some incredible work. So what did you do there at NASA?
I worked with the Space Shuttle Crew Escape Equipment Department, and that's with the pretty orange suits that you see behind me, even though that's a cartoon. It's the orange launch entry suits that was worn by all the astronauts that flew aboard the Space Shuttle. And they'll be wearing a very similar suit when Artemis goes again. And so I was the first Black person to be in that department. I was the first Black crew chief and first woman crew chief of that department, and the only one. And then the only manager Black person of that department.
Lots of accomplishments.
Was suiting up Dr. Mae Jemison, who was the first Black woman to go into space. That's when it kind of shined a little light on me.
Which were all surreal moments, and your life is just sort of, decorated with them throughout all of your career. I mean, growing up in Moss Point and then making the decision to go into the service, which was the Air Force. What lured you into the Air Force in the first place, Sharon?
Not knowing what, like a lot of high school kids from small towns, not knowing what I was going to do after I graduated high school. I didn't have money to go to college. And the Air Force recruiter came and spoke to our class like they do, every year at the high schools. And he was just talking, and my eyes just got big. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. They'll pay for me to go to school. Because I wanted to go to school. I just didn't have the money to do it. Oh, because I don't know if you remember, but I lost both my parents by the time I was 7. So I was living with my sister. And so she was just struggling, trying to keep us afloat, let alone trying to pay for college. That wasn't going to happen. We didn't have that money. And so I decided to go into the Air Force to go to college and then take not one course while I was in the Air Force. Because I had an amazing job where I was traveling every 2 months. I mean, a little 18-year-old girl from Moss Point, Mississippi. And I'm there a few months and they sent me to Japan. I've never been anywhere. So it was awesome. I had a great career in the Air Force.
Well, you ended up going to school. It was aerospace psychology specialist, I think, or aerospace engineer.
That's just aerospace physiology specialist. That was just to learn my job for the Air Force. So it wasn't college. It was just like a trade school, similar to going to.
Well, it sounds fancy to me, Sharon.
That's what I said when I heard. They told me my job. I didn't know what it was. I said, "Ooh, but it sounds fancy."
It does.
Right there.
That's okay. That's okay. And it ended up still catapulting you into a pretty impressive career. So with the suits, though, because I know that's the sort of basis of your new children's book, which I want to make sure we get to, Sharon. But what was your purpose with the suits? I mean, were you making sure they were calibrated right? For those of us who see them in their, different colored suits at your time, they were orange. What were you making sure was right or just right?
Well, I received all my training in the Air Force to work on the suit. So when I got to the Space Shuttle program, I was already trained. So thank you, Air Force. Thank you, military. So I came in already kind of a shining star because I knew what I was doing already. And so the purpose of the suits in the Air Force was to protect the pilots that flew the high altitude reconnaissance aircraft, the SR-71 and the U-2, the spy planes. And so they flew at such high altitudes and fast speeds that they had to have some extra layer of protection in case they bailed out or lost cabin pressure. So that was the reason for wearing the suit. And what we did was maintain the suit. The suits were made at a company called David Clark. They actually made the suits, and we just upkept them. We processed them. We sew, we glue, we fix things on it. We take it apart and put it back together and get it ready for these daily flights that they did in the Air Force. And of course, things slowed down when I joined the Space Shuttle program because they don't fly every day like in the Air Force, right? Space Shuttle goes every few months or so. So when I got to, after 1990, when I got my honorable discharge, 6 months later, I got a job with the space program, working with Boeing Aerospace at the time, and it became United Space Alliance, but we were the largest contractor for NASA for the Space Shuttle program. And our job started up after the Challenger accident. So this job was still fairly new. I think it started in like 1987. So it had only been going on about 3 years when I got there. And I was fortunate, to have that opportunity, because where else was I going to work with those kind of skill set? That's all I'd done my whole adult life, was work on pressure suits and altitude chambers, so it worked out great.
Normal everyday stuff that everybody just does,
Yeah.
You worked on a lot of suits, Sharon. Did you ever get to wear one?
Of course. I actually made the cover of a women's veteran magazine, and they actually used that picture of me in the suit, and I was actually flying the simulator. So I crashed and killed everybody in Florida when I was in the simulator that day. It was not a good day.
Good thing it was
not
just
a space shuttle pilot.
Just a simulation. That's okay, though.
Yeah,
I would do the same. Their fate would be the same if I was behind the wheel too, sort of, Sharon.
It is hard.
Did you ever?
It was like a big glide in.
Did you ever wish you would have become an astronaut?
I don't know that I would want it to be my career, but I would have loved to have gone up. Of course, after Columbia, I got nervous again, and I was like, no, I would never do that. But you think about it, everything is a risk every day. I know that's a little more risky because you got a rocket strapped on your back. But now, with all of the people going up, I would love if somebody else, like, y'all need to send up a suit tech, somebody that worked there all those years and suited up all those astronauts. Let me go. They're picking all these celebrities to go, let a regular person that actually worked there go. So put that out there, Rebecca. Tell them. Let the suit tech go.
We will put, they listen to good things, so they can hear right now that Sharon Mcdougall, it should be the next to get to go with SpaceX.
Yes, any of those 3 big billionaires. What do y'all let me go up?
Which somebody needs to help them with their suits. They're not very attractive. They look very Martian-like.
I know. And they're not even, because they're not going all the way into outer space, they're on the outer edges. They're not even wearing suits. They just have on like this little cute little top and bottom, pretty much.
Last question.
Private sector. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on the suits that you used to work on, why were they orange?
And that's answered in my book also, but it's because it's a universal help color, first of all. Anybody that see that they know are, a prisoner. Prisoners walk around in orange jumpsuits, but it's a universal help color, and it can be seen easily in the ocean, which is probably where they would end up if they bailed out, because they'd be over water.
Which I guess if you came through going through space in orange, you would be help. But
when they do the spacewalks, they have the white suit when they do the spacewalks.
Why is that?
That's the extra vehicular mobility unit. That's like a little baby space shuttle. And it's way more. Ours is only for launch and re-entry. So if they had to bail out or they lost cabin pressure, it would pressurize and save them inside until they got to a low enough altitude to bail out. But the white one, that's like a little small space vehicle within itself.
Well, I learned something new here on Good Things Today about our astronauts in space exploration. And I know you can learn a lot, too, through your children's book, which is next on your list of accomplishments. So what inspired you to write Suit Up for Launch with Shay?
I've always wanted to write a children's book because I love reading to kids. That's one of my most favorite volunteer opportunities. Anytime I get a chance to go read to the kids, I get all down on the floor with them and I just have a good time. And I usually dress up in some kind of costume, depending on what the book is. So, and just to have that engagement with them, see their little faces light up, and also to let them know about these different careers. You can do other things besides being an astronaut. Nobody's ever heard of a suit tech. I hadn't until I worked there. Nobody thinks about the person that's helping them and training them on how to use his equipment. Life-sustaining equipment is what it is. It's there to help them in case of an emergency. So it's that. And then I used to always go to the schools when I was still with the space program. And I still do it over Zoom now. I talk to classes and take the dog, do the dog and pony show, take the suit, tell them all about it. Because they just see, like I said, you just see the astronauts walking and waving with this orange suit on. You don't even think about what it's for, what it does, who's working on it. How do they get in it? How do they go to the bathroom in it?
A phenomenal career just working around the suit. Stick with us, Sharon, because we've got more with her and her children's book coming up next here on Good Thing. And if you were watching over at SuperTalk TV, you'll see my guest, Sharon Mcdougall, and myself are just having too much fun today, which is definitely a good thing. Okay, let's talk about your book, Suit Up for Launch with Shay. You mentioned you were inspired because you love going to schools and educating children on the different job opportunities out there, particularly around the STEM world for sure. I would think that would fall into your job as when you worked with NASA as the Space Shuttle Crew Escape Equipment Department, or in that department. But that's hard to sort of come across to kids. So how did you put it into a book that's a little more fun and playful?
It was the way I put it into the book. When I used to go to the schools, I used the questions that the kids would always ask. And then if it was a shyer group of kids, I would ask them the questions. But it's pretty much based around that and walking them through it. And I even go into a little more detail than some of the questions they used to ask. Things like, why is it orange? Like when you asked it, I was like, oh, that's one of the main questions. Why is it orange? How do they go to the bathroom in it? How long does it take to put on? Is it heavy? And, all these little questions. And I just did it in a way where it's just mom, daughter. And it's going to just be the girls that day. The dad and little brother's going to do something else. So the mom asked her, what do you want to do? She said, I want to play dress up. And so she's thinking, what do I want to dress up as? And she goes through different things in her mind. And she said, I want to dress up as an astronaut. And of course, her mom, being a former suit tech, knows all about that suit. So, so she walks her through. She said, before we play dress up and you put the suit on, I need to tell you all about the suit. So she starts going through it and telling little Shay about it. And that's the premise of the book. It's really cute. So, and adults learn from it too. I've had several adults say, oh, I didn't know that, or wow, have wow moments when they're reading it to their kids.
So do you watch kids just eyes and brains just like light up when they see that there are other opportunities? You don't have to go in space. You don't have to build the rocket. There really are other things for you to do that can be cool and interesting.
And then to see a Black person that's doing it, that's the other part of it. They're like, what? You did what? And you did it without a college degree? You can work at NASA without a college degree? Yeah, you can. There's so many other jobs besides being an astronaut or astrophysicist, rocket scientist. There's so many other jobs behind the scenes to make it possible for those astronauts to go do what they do. And being a suit tech is one of them, taking care of their life support equipment. And so
one thing also I love about your story, Sharon, that's so good for so many kids or young people is that you don't have to have it all figured out. You just took the opportunity that was in front of you, which was the Air Force after you graduated from Moss Point High School. And then, just the fact that you were open to new opportunities or whatever the world would provide. You wound up in this really cool, role, breaking all kinds of barriers for Black women in general, and just, young girls and boys like yourself. And I think, we should all think that way. Like, you don't have to have it all figured out. Just take the next right step.
Perfectly said. And I always tell kids that don't be afraid to fail, because rejection is just redirection. You go do something else, It doesn't mean that it's done. If you don't have money to go to college, don't feel like you're less than another child that has two parents at home that can pay for them to go to college. You're still valuable. You can still do something great. And my job chose me. It was such an unconventional path, as you already alluded to. I had no idea what that was, but I was ready to go. Let's go. I'm going to learn a new job. I'm leaving Moss Point for bigger and better things, hopefully. And I just had angels walking with me. Because every step along the way, I had somebody set in place. How I got the job, a friend of mine that used to be in the Air Force with me had already been out here. I didn't even know. He called me and told me there was an immediate opening. I had no idea. I was working 3 jobs, little part-time jobs, trying to just make it, sleeping on my friend's futon. So if he hadn't thought highly enough of me to call me, I would probably still be in California struggling, barely making it. I wouldn't have been here making history and breaking all these barriers and being a trailblazer and all this great stuff that's happened because a friend thought, because you're not going to bring anybody to your job that you don't think is worthy and make you look bad, right? So if he hadn't thought I was good enough, he wouldn't have called. And so I always thank him for that.
incredible moments throughout your career, Sharon. I would have to think that, September 12th, 1992, being part of the historical moment where you got to assist Dr. May to be the first Black woman to go into space. Did you know that moment was special? Like, did you know that it would bring everything that it brought sort of after that? Or are you just in the zone doing your job, making sure her suit's right, like you're supposed to, and then step back and, take it all in?
But girl, you in my head. That's exactly it. I didn't think it was a big deal like it turned out to be because I never even said anything because I was in photos with Dr. May. And so I'm not hidden. But once that movie came out, and I had never heard of those ladies, and I was out at, Hidden Figures came out. Thank you. And I had been out in the space program 22 years, and I had never heard of not one of these women. I thought the story was fictional when it first came out. I didn't know it was true, a real story. And so I got a little angry at first, and then I was happy that their story's being told. And then that kind of prompted me. And friends have been telling me, you got a very interesting, inspirational story, coming from losing your parents and going on to do great things. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to tell somebody. So I reached out to my hometown newspaper, and a young man wrote the article. And after that, social media got a hold of it, and it just spread. People in my own hometown didn't realize my career path and what I'd done, even though I've talked about it before. And like I said, I'm in photos with her. I'm not hidden, but I was invisible. I was hidden in plain sight, and it was just crazy. But so after that, I realized, wow, yeah. I mean, I knew we were making history at the time because I was the only Black woman in my department. She was the only Black female astronaut at the time. I knew that was historical, but not big as it turned out to be. But nobody ever contacted me. It's like I said, they saw the pictures. All they saw was Dr. May. They didn't even see me. I never got contacted.
She wouldn't have made it to space safe without Sharon McDougal. Let's just put it on record here.
This little Mississippi girl. That's right.
On good things. I also think the timing's just right for your time now, Miss Sharon. And you always wonder why some stories get picked up and sometimes not others. But I think the seasons for right now, and then you have this unique connection with children and being able to educate them, and so your book is going to be a great light for them to be able to maybe chart their own path. And maybe it won't be necessarily towards space exploration, but if you can believe that you can work like in the space arena, whether you do or not, like reach for the stars, right? You're going to fall somewhere pretty cool.
But they say shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you land among the stars. That's it. Like Shay. And she's on Amazon. Shay. Anybody y'all can go out and purchase Shay. And I do read to classes over Zoom. They can contact me that way. And I've read to classes in Vegas, California, Florida. So, that's one good thing that came out of COVID is being able to connect with more people that I would not have been able to connect with without, doing all the Zoom readings. So
when you're not connecting with students, Sharon, over Zoom, what is Sharon Mcdougall up to? What else are you doing that's great and wonderful?
I have another book as well on the adult side, and it's an anthology with 11 other women called Fearless Women Rock, Volume 3. It's Courageous Women Finding Strength During a Storm. And so my chapter is titled, Does God Love Me? Because throughout my childhood, because he took my parents and the way things happened, throughout my childhood, that's what my chapter is about. Because I didn't think he loved me pretty much my whole childhood. But he made it up to me after I became an adult. As far as my great careers. So I said, okay, he must love me. I stopped feeling sorry for myself, And also I do a lot of speaking engagements. And, of course, this is a very popular time for me during Black History Month. And you have Women's History Month. And then April is Black Women's History Month. So the first quarter of the year, I'm pretty busy with being on panels, doing podcasts. And like I said, just any kind of speaking engagement you can think of, I'm pretty much there.
What do you say
and always,
to those?
Like I say, throughout the year, I'm always talking to the kids throughout the year. No certain amount.
Sharon, to the kids or anyone just listening to good things that maybe their childhood or their start to life wasn't maybe the best route. What do you say about the other half or how you can end it? What's your word of encouragement?
Don't ever give up. And if you don't have it all figured out at the beginning, that's okay. That's okay. Because like I mentioned earlier, my job chose me. I had no idea what I was going to do. But still, you need to still have a good character, be a hard worker, and have some grit and determination. Because if I could have just been like lackadaisical and not put forth much effort, and I probably wouldn't have ended up where I was. So always know that people are always watching. Always do your best. Show up on time. Show up and show out. Always do your best, no matter what. That's mine.
And the rest will sort of take care of you. And I again, since SpaceX is probably listening to good things, we're putting it out there that Sharon McDougal needs her ride into space, since she suited up astronauts and I guess Air Force. Yeah,
that's right.
And when you were in the Air Force, did you ever get a ride on the jet and feel the G's?
No, unfortunately not. The one opportunity came up when I was on temporary assignment somewhere for me. And so I missed that opportunity. It didn't happen all the time. I did sit in the plane all the time. But the SR-71 and the U-2, they didn't allow us to. I think the only person I know of was like a general and colonels, high up ranking. But us, we just load the aircraft with the seat kit and the parachute, go sit up the crew member, bring them back and strap them in and be bye, and recover them when they come back. So no,
where can we find you online, Miss Sharon? Where can we find you online?
Oh, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm everywhere.
Well, we appreciate your time here on Good Things, Sharon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Stick with us. We got more for you up next.